Throughout human history, mysterious creatures have always been an inseparable part of folklore and legends. These monsters, mythical beings, and demons constantly make us question, do they truly exist? Or are they merely products of our imagination? From ancient monsters lurking in deep forests to bizarre creatures appearing on dark nights, stories of these enigmatic beings never fail to captivate and terrify. In today's video, we will delve into real events involving legendary creatures sighted in the real world. You will hear about terrifying encounters, massive and mysterious beings that remain unexplained to this day. Brace yourself, because the stories you are about to hear might make you reconsider what you thought was impossible. Do you dare to face creatures humanity has never fully understood? Let's begin this journey of discovery now. Aswang, the night monster of the Philippines. The Aswang is one of the most terrifying mythical creatures in Philippine culture, known for its shape-shifting abilities, blood-sucking tendencies, and appetite for human flesh. This dark and horrifying figure has haunted generations of Filipinos, especially in rural communities. More than just a supernatural being, the Aswang is an integral part of folklore, surrounded by eerie stories about its existence. The story I am about to share took place in 1972 in a remote village on Panay Island, Philippines. The village, called San Agustin, was nestled deep in the forest and surrounded by vast sugarcane fields. On moonless nights, the villagers often spoke of a strange creature they called the Aswang, a human-like monster capable of shape-shifting and drinking human blood. In San Agustin, a small family lived in a modest wooden house. Maria, her husband Jose, and their 3 young children. Their lives revolved around farming and caring for their family. Despite the village's remote location, Maria often felt an eerie unease, especially late at night. Since moving to the village, Maria frequently heard strange noises at night, soft footsteps as if someone was walking around the house, or scratching sounds at the window, like sharp claws. At first, she dismissed these as the wind, but after hearing them repeatedly, she began to suspect something sinister. One night, as the family slept soundly, Maria was startled awake by the piercing scream of her youngest daughter, Anna. Rushing out of bed to Anna's room, she found the little girl trembling, her eyes wide with terror. On the window, 2 long scratches were clearly visible, as if someone or something had tried to claw its way inside. Anna pointed at the window and whispered, "Mom, I saw a woman standing outside, but she didn't have a face, just a shadow with glowing red eyes." Terrified, Maria woke Jose. Although concerned, Jose believed it might have been a nightmare or Anna's imagination. However, when he inspected the area around the house, he found strange tracks on the ground, large footprints that didn't resemble those of a normal human, but something more animalistic. Another night, as Maria stepped outside to fetch water, she noticed a figure lurking in the shadows among the trees. Unable to see the figure's face, she was overwhelmed by a chilling sense of dread. Suddenly, the figure turned to look at her, and Maria felt the piercing gaze of cold, menacing eyes. The figure, a woman, slowly moved closer, her eyes glowing red like 2 burning embers. An icy aura surrounded the woman, and Maria's body froze in fear. She tried to scream, but couldn't make a sound. The woman opened her mouth, emitting a guttural growl that resembled the snarling of a wild beast. Horror consumed Maria as she realized this was no ordinary person, but an Aswang, the monster of legend. In sheer panic, Maria ran inside and bolted the door. She recounted the experience to Jose and their children. While the children were skeptical, Jose started to believe her and sought more information from the villagers. A week later, under the bright light of a full moon, a disturbing shift occurred. Maria noticed her children were restless at night. One evening, their son Mateo mysteriously disappeared. Desperation consumed the family as they searched everywhere, but no trace of Mateo could be found. Maria remembered the stories about Aswangs abducting children under the guise of the full moon. She sought out a local healer who was said to know about Aswang lore. The healer explained that Aswangs often appear as humans or animals, luring victims to feast on their blood or flesh. These creatures were masters of disguise, making them nearly impossible to detect. A real-life incident in 2003 in a southern Philippine village added credibility to the Aswang tales. A group of journalists investigating mysterious disappearances uncovered allegations against a woman accused of being an Aswang. Villagers claimed she was behind the vanishing children. The story drew national attention, prompting authorities to investigate. One night, as Maria's family huddled in fear, they heard a strange noise outside. A strong gust of wind blew the window open, revealing a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes standing before their home. Maria instantly recognized it as the Aswang from her nightmares. The creature exhaled a wave of cold air that sent shivers through the family. Determined to protect their children, Maria and Jose grabbed them and fled the house. But the Aswang gave chase. As they ran, the Aswang's laughter echoed eerily, as if mocking them in a sinister game. By dawn, the family returned home, finding no trace of the Aswang. However, the terrifying ordeal left an indelible mark on their lives. To this day, Maria and her family refuse to return to their old house. The memory of the Aswang haunts them, a chilling reminder that some folklore might contain elements of truth. Many Filipinos believe Aswangs shapeshift into land-dwelling animals, often imitating birds. The distinctive sounds attributed to Aswangs are thought to resemble those of certain birds. Animals like Tasmanian devils, bats, and flying lemurs have been killed in large numbers due to suspicions they were Aswangs in disguise. Another explanation connects Aswangs to a rare genetic disorder called XDP, which primarily affects Filipino men. This condition causes uncontrollable tremors and muscle stiffness, resembling some descriptions of Aswangs. Notably, XDP cases are most concentrated in Cape Eyes, a region often linked to Aswang legends. Alternatively, the Aswang myth might serve as a scapegoat for heinous crimes. Blaming a monster is easier than confronting the reality of human perpetrators. Tabloid newspapers often sensationalize such stories to boost sales, perpetuating the myth. Aswang tales have also been used to explain miscarriages and stillbirths, attributing them to supernatural interference. In the end, whether myth or reality, the Aswang remains an enduring and chilling figure in Philippine folklore, embodying the fears and mysteries that lurk in the shadows of the night. Jiangshi, the Chinese hopping vampire. Jiangshi, often referred to as hopping vampires, are legendary creatures from Chinese folklore. These beings are described as reanimated corpses that drain the life energy of the living. Stories about Jiangshi are not merely mythical. They are tied to chilling historical accounts, leading many to believe that their existence may not be entirely fictional. In 1983, a mysterious disappearance occurred in a small village near Mount Wui in Fujian Province, China. A young woman named Lin May failed to return after venturing into the forest to gather medicinal herbs. Her family organized a search, but found only her broken bamboo hat lying on the ground. A local hunter, Mr. Zhang, recounted seeing something very strange in the forest the night Lin May disappeared. With a trembling voice, Zhang described, "I saw someone, but it wasn't a living person. It hopped with stiff, jerky movements, like a log. When I shone my light on it, its face was pale, devoid of any blood." Villagers began to speculate that Lin may have been taken by a Jiangshi, as the Wui Mountains were notorious for ancient tombs and tales of reanimated corpses. Shortly before Lin May's disappearance, an archaeological team had arrived in the area to excavate an ancient tomb believed to belong to a noble family from the Ming Dynasty. According to the team leader, they discovered a tightly sealed stone coffin containing the corpse of a man clad in armor. However, strange incidents began to occur among the team members after the coffin was opened. Within a week of the excavation, one team member developed a sudden high fever and died under mysterious circumstances. Locals believed that the team had disturbed the dead and incurred a curse. One night, an elderly villager named Madame Lien heard strange footsteps outside her home. She recounted, "At first, I thought it was someone walking by, but when I looked out, I saw a figure hopping stiffly, like a log. I swear its eyes glowed in the dark." Madame Lien quickly bolted her door and began chanting prayers. But the sound of heavy knocking persisted throughout the night. In Chinese history, the Jiangshi phenomenon might have roots in traditional corpse preservation techniques. Some bodies were so well preserved that when discovered, they appeared almost lifelike, fueling tales of the undead. During the Qing dynasty, records mention corpse drivers in southern China who transported deceased bodies back to their hometowns. These individuals used ropes to make the corpses hop in unison, creating eerie scenes that likely inspired Jiangshi stories. In September 1983, a group of young villagers decided to investigate the excavated tomb to uncover the truth behind the strange occurrences. Armed with flashlights, talismans, and knives, they ventured into the area late at night. As they approached the tomb, they heard faint sighs emanating from within. Xiao Jun, one of the group members, recalled, "At first, I thought it was just the wind, but as we got closer, I saw a figure jump out of the tomb. Its glowing red eyes stared directly at us." The group fled in terror, but one of them, Ming, tripped and screamed that something was grabbing him. "Help me, it's here." When the others returned, they found Ming unconscious with scratch marks resembling claw wounds on his neck. Following the incident, the villagers invited a Taoist priest to exorcise the tomb. The priest declared that the tomb had been disturbed, leaving the dead restless. He performed a complex ritual and placed protective talismans on the site. When Ming regained consciousness, he could not recall the night's events, but he suffered recurring nightmares of a pale-faced man in armor. Terrified, the villagers avoided the tomb entirely. Madame Lien, who once encountered the Jiangshi, solemnly warned, "We should never disturb what belongs to the dead. Sometimes, curiosity leads to dire consequences." The Jiangshi legend may have a basis in reality. During the Qing dynasty, workers who died far from home were often transported back in a peculiar way. Two men would carry a coffin on bamboo poles at night. The bouncing motion of the poles made the corpses inside appear to hop, giving rise to rumors of reanimated bodies. It was also believed that shamans could revive the dead, guiding their hopping corpses home under strict rituals. These journeys were conducted at night to prevent decomposition and minimize encounters with the living. The process often involved a Taoist priest ringing a bell to warn people to stay away. Jiangshi are said to emerge only at night, draining life energy from the living to sustain themselves. Traditional methods to ward off Jiangshi include black dog blood, sticky rice, mirrors, chicken eggs, and the urine of young boys. Yowie, the Bigfoot of Oceania, Australia. Yowie, a mysterious creature dubbed the Bigfoot of Australia, has appeared in Aboriginal legends for thousands of years. Descriptions of the Yowie closely resemble stories of Bigfoot in North America, tall, hairy, being often spotted in remote, dense forests. Numerous accounts and real-life incidents have made this creature a topic of debate, with many claiming to have seen it firsthand. In June 2009, the dense Blue Mountains forest, located about 100 kilometers west of Sydney, became the center of a strange event. A group of amateur explorers led by Tom Wilson ventured into the wilderness to investigate supernatural phenomena. Tom, an enthusiast of mysterious creatures, recounted, "We had heard that the Blue Mountains had the highest number of Yowie reports. Initially, I thought these were just tales to attract tourists, but what we experienced there changed everything." On their first night in the forest, Tom's group set up camp near a small stream. As the moon rose high, they heard a deafening roar echoing from deep within the woods. Sarah, a group member, recalled, "That sound was unlike any animal I've ever heard. It was deep, powerful, and full of menace." When they shone their flashlights toward the source of the roar, they saw tree branches shaking violently, yet there was no wind. The next morning, they discovered a series of large footprints, each about 40 centimeters long, deeply embedded in the damp ground. Tom quickly photographed and measured them. These footprints couldn't belong to any human or known animal in the area. We felt as though we were being watched. On the second night, as the group gathered around the campfire, one member, Mike, suddenly shouted, "Look, near the rock ledge." The group turned to see a tall figure, approximately 2.5 meters high, standing silently among the bushes. The firelight reflected off its glowing red eyes. Sarah screamed, "That's the Yowie. It's watching us." Before they could react, the creature disappeared into the forest, leaving behind an eerie, chilling atmosphere. The Blue Mountains have long been a hotspot for Yowie reports. In 1977, a man named Leo Hader claimed he was attacked by the creature while camping. According to his account, the creature had jet black fur, roared aggressively, and struck his tent with its hands. In 2001, a truck driver on Bell's Line of Road, near the Blue Mountains, reported seeing a massive creature running across the road at night. He said, "I'm certain it wasn't human. It ran on two legs, stood at least 3 meters tall, and vanished into the forest within seconds." Such accounts have drawn the attention of cryptozoologists worldwide. On the third night, Tom's group decided to set up infrared cameras around their camp to capture images of the creature. Around midnight, while everyone was trying to sleep, they were jolted awake by a loud roar and heavy footsteps circling their tents. Tom grabbed a flashlight and ran outside. In a fleeting moment, he saw a massive figure dart into the darkness. Sarah, trembling, said, "It was so close. We need to leave this place." The next morning, upon reviewing the footage, they found a blurry video showing a large, dark figure moving swiftly past the camera lens. Returning to Sydney, Tom's group shared their story and footage with researchers. Some believed it was genuine evidence of Yowie's existence, while others suggested they had been deceived by natural phenomena or their imaginations. We can't say for certain what it was, but I believe the Blue Mountains hold many untold mysteries. Whether real or just a legend, Yowie reminds us of the wonder and fear nature can inspire. Since the 19th century, numerous encounters with the Yowie have been documented. A record from 1842 describes, "The Aboriginal people of Australia believe in the Yowie. They describe it as resembling a man of almost human height, covered in white fur and hair. Its arms are exceptionally long, with large claws at the fingertips, and its feet point backward. Thus, when fleeing humans, its footprints appear to go in the opposite direction. Overall, they describe it as a grotesque monster with ape-like features." Meanwhile, a news report from the 1880s mentioned that naturalist Henry James McCooey claimed to have seen a Yowie in New South Wales. However, according to him, it stood only 1.5 meters tall, had no tail, and was covered in very long black fur. The Gobi camel monster, a deadly creature in the desert, Mongolia. The Gobi Desert, stretching across China and Mongolia, is renowned not only for its harsh landscapes, but also for mysterious tales of a creature known as the Gobi camel monster. According to legend, this creature resembles a massive, humpless camel with dark red, wrinkled skin, and the ability to spit deadly venom. Locals believe it to be the vengeful spirit of those left to die of thirst in the desert. In 1998, an international documentary team led by French filmmaker Antoine Lefebvre ventured into the Gobi Desert to work on a project about wildlife. The team included German biologist Dr. Klaus Wagner and Mongolian translator Bayer. Antoine shared the project's goal. "We wanted to capture the wild beauty of the Gobi and explore the mysterious stories passed down by locals. When we first heard about the camel monster, we thought it was just a legend, but what we experienced changed my perspective." When the team reached a small camp near the desert, they heard about a strange disappearance that had occurred just 2 weeks earlier. A camel herder named Saren had left the camp to search for water for his livestock, but never returned. All they found was his broken knife and large, unidentifiable footprints leading deeper into the desert. Bayer recounted, "The people here believe those are the tracks of the camel monster. It is not an ordinary animal. It carries the desert's curse, and anyone who encounters it does not survive. On their first night in the desert, the film crew set up camp near a dry watering hole. As night fell, they heard deep, rumbling growls echoing in the distance. Antoine recalled, "I had never heard anything like it. It didn't sound like a camel or any other animal I know." Dr. Wagner, despite his scientific background, also felt uneasy. Sometimes, science cannot explain everything. I had the feeling we were stepping into the domain of something beyond our understanding. Records of the Gobi camel monster date back to the 19th century, when Russian explorer Nikolai Przhevelsky first reported encountering a strange creature during his desert journey. According to his journal, the creature could move rapidly across the sand, leaving deep, uneven tracks. In 1932, a Soviet survey team reported a similar incident when two members mysteriously disappeared. During the search, they found large footprints leading to quicksand, but no bodies or other traces were ever discovered. On the fourth day of the expedition, as they were filming a sunset atop a large dune, Dr. Wagner suddenly shouted, "Look, over there!" Everyone turned to see a massive, shadowy figure moving across the dunes. The creature was taller than any camel they had ever seen, with dark red skin glistening in the sunset. Antoine decided to move closer to film it, but Ink Bayer urgently stopped him. "Don't! It will attack. This is not something humans should approach." At that moment, the creature turned its head toward them, and the group felt an overwhelming wave of pressure, as if the air around them had grown heavy. Antoine recounted, "I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then it let out a thunderous roar, as if warning us to stay away. The creature vanished into the sand, leaving behind massive, impossibly deep footprints. The film crew quickly left the area and didn't dare return. The footage they captured, though unclear, caused a stir when it was released. Some scientists speculated it was merely a mutated camel, while others believed the team had encountered a truly mythical creature. Antoine concluded, "The Gobi is a place of incredible beauty, but also great danger. There are secrets buried deep within the desert that we should not attempt to uncover. Sometimes, respecting nature is the greatest lesson of all." The Baikal Lake Mare People, mysteries beneath the deep waters, Russia. Lake Baikal in Siberia, Russia, is the world's deepest freshwater lake, holding countless mysteries dating back millions of years. Alongside its unique ecosystem, it is steeped in eerie tales of underwater beings, particularly the Mare People, creatures described as half-human, half-fish, often spotted at great depths. Throughout the 20th century, numerous reports of encounters with the Mare People at Lake Baikal fueled both curiosity and fear. Some events, documented by local fishermen and Soviet military divers, turned these legends into haunting and unforgettable stories. In the summer of 1982, a team of Soviet military divers was tasked with exploring the lake's depths to study its geological structure and unknown organisms. The team, led by experienced diver Dmitry Orlov, consisted of 6 members. Dmitry once remarked, "Lake Baikal is a breathtakingly beautiful but perilous place. Every dive feels like something is watching me." The expedition began like any other mission, but within days, strange occurrences started unfolding. During a dive to depths exceeding 50 meters, Dmitry and 2 other divers noticed a large shadow darting swiftly past their field of vision. Dmitry recounted in his journal, "At first, I thought it was a giant sturgeon, but its shape, it looked more human. It had arms and legs but swam incredibly fast. One night, as the team rested aboard their vessel, they heard sounds emanating from beneath the water, like wailing or someone calling out. Alexei, a diver with local roots, whispered, 'It's the Mare People. They're warning us to leave.' On their third dive, the team ventured to nearly 80 meters, a depth rarely reached by humans. There, they encountered 3 strange beings, approximately 2 to 3 meters tall, with pale gray skin and large, lidless eyes. Dmitri later described them to his superiors. They didn't look like fish, nor like humans, but they were observing us, without fear. One diver, Sergei, attempted to approach, but the creatures swam away at incredible speed. At that moment, Sergei felt a powerful pressure crushing his body, forcing him to surface immediately with severe injuries. In 1977, a Soviet research vessel equipped with sonar recorded unusual movements at depths exceeding 500 meters in Lake Baikal. These movements did not match any known fish species, leaving scientists puzzled. In the 1990s, civilian divers also reported seeing massive shadows moving nearby. In 2009, a local fisherman named Ivan Petrovich claimed to have seen a humanoid creature swimming close to his boat during a nighttime fishing trip. Ivan recounted, "Its eyes glowed in the dark, and I felt like it was trying to communicate with me." Dimitri's team decided to return to the site where they had encountered the strange beings, this time equipped with advanced recording devices and protective gear. However, upon descending beyond 70 meters, they were struck by a sudden and intense underwater current, throwing them into chaos. Dmitri and two other divers were separated from the group. While trying to regroup, Dmitri saw one of the creatures swimming close to him. It didn't attack, but its cold, large eyes left him paralyzed with fear. Dmitri later recalled hearing a voice in his head, like a whisper, "This is not your place. Leave." When the team finally surfaced, 3 of the 6 divers were severely injured, showing symptoms consistent with rapid pressure changes. Sergei, the most affected, died shortly afterward. The Baikal expedition was abruptly canceled, and the official report on the incident was classified for years. Dmitri, a survivor, resigned and retreated to a small village near the lake. He later shared, "I don't know what they were, but I believe we trespassed into their domain. Some things don't belong to our world, and it's best to leave them alone." The images and data gathered during the expedition were never officially released. However, stories of the Mer people in Lake Baikal continue to circulate, captivating and terrifying those who hear them. Bunyip, the swamp monster of Australia. Bunyip is a legendary creature from Australian Aboriginal folklore, believed to inhabit swamps, rivers, lakes, and calm bodies of water. Stories about the bunyip often describe it as a large, ferocious creature resembling a seal or crocodile, with the ability to emit terrifying roars to hunt its prey. The bunyip's appearance is unclear, as reports vary widely, with some describing it as a water-dwelling animal resembling a dog or a seal. Others mention a creature with a long neck and a small head. The bunyip is said to resemble a seal or a dog, measuring 1.2 to 1.8 meters long, covered in long brown or black fur. On the other hand, the long-necked bunyips, measuring 1.5 to 40 meters, are often described as having dark-colored fur. The bunyip is depicted with a head resembling that of a bulldog, featuring large fangs and distinct ears. It lacks a tail, but has long whiskers and flippers. The long-necked bunyip variety is said to have smaller fangs, ears, and a head resembling that of a horse or an emu rather than a dog. Its neck is approximately 1 meter long, slender, and has a mane, along with folds of skin around the neck and a tail similar to a horse's. The Aboriginals describe the bunyip as an amphibious animal that is active at night. Its home is in lakes, rivers, streams, and stagnant ponds. It is an excellent swimmer, moving swiftly through water thanks to its flippers or webbed feet. The bunyip is also said to produce loud, roaring sounds. According to many legends, the bunyip is a dangerous creature to humans, preying on women and children. However, it typically feeds on crabs and eggs found in burrows. Modern Australians view the bunyip as part of folklore, but during the 1800s, numerous disappearances and strange reports brought the legend to life and made it hauntingly vivid. A haunting encounter in Kurrong Swamp. In 1893, in a remote area near the Kurrong Swamp in South Australia, a small British family named Henderson had recently settled to clear land and raise livestock. Edward Henderson, his wife Sarah, and their young daughter Margaret lived in a modest wooden house near a large swamp. Their neighbors were the Ngarrindjeri Aboriginal people, who had long shared stories of the Bunyip with the Hendersons. An elderly elder, Cora, once warned Edward, "This water belongs to the Bunyip. Do not disturb it. Leave it be, and it will leave you unharmed." Edward, a pragmatic man, merely smiled. "I don't believe in fairy tales. My friend, we'll be fine." But what happened in the weeks that followed changed his mind. One night, while the family was asleep, Sarah suddenly awoke to a strange noise. It was a deep, prolonged roar, unlike any animal sound she had ever heard. She shook Edward awake. "Did you hear that? Something out there." Edward reassured his wife and grabbed a lantern to check outside. However, he found nothing but large muddy tracks on the ground in front of their house, as if a massive creature had crawled by. A few days later, Edward discovered two of his sheep torn apart near the water's edge. He suspected a crocodile or wild dogs, but found no familiar footprints. The bite marks on the sheep were too large to belong to any known predator. When Cora heard about it, he simply shook his head. "The Bunyip is hungry. It won't stop." The tragedy struck one morning when young Margaret disappeared while playing near the swamp. All that was left was her small shoe and a trail of water leading from the shore into the depths of the swamp. Sarah wailed in grief, and Edward, in despair, organized a search across the area. But it was in vain. Locals avoided the swamp, whispering that Margaret had been taken by the Bunyip. Historical records and a terrifying encounter. The legend of the Bunyip isn't solely rooted in Aboriginal folklore. There are notable historical records as well. In the 19th century, British explorer George Fletcher more documented strange skeletons discovered near swamps, which locals believed to belong to the Bunyip. In 1845, an Australian newspaper published sketches of a bizarre creature based on accounts from witnesses who claimed to have seen it. Disappearances near water bodies were also recorded, but never satisfactorily explained. A week after Margaret's disappearance, Edward decided to venture deep into the swamp with a search party, armed with lanterns, spears, and guns. They were determined to uncover the creature responsible for the tragedy. When they reached the heart of the swamp, they heard strange hissing sounds, and a massive shadow emerged on the water. The creature surfaced, a gigantic body with rough, scaly skin, glowing red eyes, and a mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth. Edward shouted, "Run! Don't look back!" The group fired their weapons as they retreated, but the creature moved with astonishing speed in the water, creating waves that nearly capsized their boat. After escaping the danger, Edward swore never to set foot in the Kurrong swamp again. The Henderson family quickly left the area. Sarah never recovered from the loss of her daughter, and Edward lived haunted by the creature he had seen. He recounted his story to a local reporter. "I didn't believe the warnings. The Bunyip isn't just a legend. It's real, and I paid dearly for my ignorance." The story of the Henderson family spread across Australia, serving as a chilling reminder to respect nature and the mysteries humanity has yet to understand. The Kelpie, seahorse monster of Loch Ness, Scotland. The Kelpie is one of the most famous legendary creatures in Scottish folklore. According to legend, the Kelpie is a shape-shifting entity that can transform into a horse, deceiving those who unwittingly approach lakes or streams, pulling them into the water and drowning them. The story of the Kelpie is closely tied to bodies of water in Scotland, especially deep lakes and marshes, where the creature is said to frequently appear. In 1821, a chilling event occurred at Loch Ness, where a supposed encounter between a human and a mysterious aquatic creature brought the Kelpie legend to life like never before. The tale begins on a June night in 1821, when a farmer named James MacDonald, living near Loch Ness, took his cattle along a dirt path near the lake to find grazing for them. James, a strong man not easily swayed by mystical legends, decided to pass through a desolate area often associated with strange occurrences by locals. As James approached the lake's edge, he heard an odd sound resembling the clatter of horse hooves against the ground. Turning around, he saw a large black horse with drenched fur standing in the middle of the path. Its eyes glowed brightly in the darkness, as if it were watching him. Though slightly apprehensive, James moved closer to the creature, assuming it was merely a stray wild horse. For reasons he couldn't comprehend, as James stepped closer, the horse suddenly turned and dashed into Loch Ness. Alarmed, James ran after it, but by the time he reached the lake's edge, the horse had completely vanished into the thick mist. There were no signs of the animal anywhere. At that moment, James felt an uncanny sensation as though something was amiss. But he dismissed it as fatigue and decided to return home. However, that night, nightmares about the black horse began to haunt him. A few days later, James returned to the area where the horse had disappeared, hoping to find some evidence. Instead of hoof prints, he discovered strange scratches along the lake's edge. These marks resembled those of a large horse being dragged into the water and seemed to vanish abruptly, as if the water had swallowed everything. A week later, James's close friend, a fisherman named Ian, decided to take a boat out on Loch Ness to fish. He didn't return that evening, and his family reported him missing to the police. After several days of searching, Ian's body was found on the lake shore. Strangely, there were no signs of physical injuries on his body, only mysterious bite marks. The police concluded that Ian might have drowned after falling into the water, but they couldn't explain his earlier disappearance. Loch Ness, famous for the Nessie monster tales, is also a place where Kelpie legends persist. In past centuries, stories of strange creatures and unexplained disappearances were documented. One notable event occurred in 1830 when a group of hunters shot a strange creature near Loch Ness. But no one could identify what it was. Many believed it was a Kelpie, though no one could prove it. In 1930, a family named Wren captured a blurry photograph of a creature floating on the water, leading many to speculate that it was a Kelpie. One night, James decided to return to Loch Ness to determine whether the black horse he had encountered was truly a Kelpie. As he approached the lake's edge, a sudden strong wind arose, accompanied by large waves. In the darkness, a massive figure appeared once again, resembling the black horse he had seen before. This time, however, the figure was not an ordinary horse. It had glowing red eyes, soaking wet black fur, and a wide mouth filled with sharp teeth. James screamed, but before he could react, the creature lunged toward him and vanished into the thick fog. In the final moments, James heard a loud roar from beneath the water and a whispering voice in the wind. "I will drag you into the lake." James survived, but after that event, he never returned to Loch Ness. From then on, he no longer believed in the idea of benevolent creatures and legends, but rather in the existence of dangerous, ancient beings that linger in the darkness of the waters. Since then, James McDonald's story and the Black Horse have become part of the Kelpie legend surrounding Loch Ness, where mysterious and perilous creatures continue to haunt those daring enough to venture into their domain. Pope Lick Monster, the creature of Pope Lick Bridge, Kentucky. The Pope Lick Monster is one of the most famous legendary creatures in Kentucky, USA. It is believed to be a half-human, half-goat being, distinguished by its goat-like head and human torso. Often seen near the Pope Lick Bridge, a decrepit bridge spanning the Pope Lick Creek in the suburbs of Louisville. The image of the Pope Lick Monster has become an integral part of local horror stories. However, the real-life events surrounding this bridge make the tale even more terrifying and haunting. The story of the Pope Lick Monster began on a March night in 1957, when a group of local teenagers planned a walk across the Pope Lick Bridge, an old and desolate iron bridge located in the remote outskirts of Louisville. Although the bridge was no longer in use for transportation, it remained a popular destination for thrill seekers due to chilling tales of a mysterious creature said to inhabit the area. The group of teens consisted of three close friends, Brian, Jessica, and Sam. They had just left a birthday party and wanted to experience the thrill of crossing the bridge in the dark. They had heard many stories about the Pope Lick Monster, but none of them truly believed in it. They thought it was just a legend meant to scare people. However, as they approached the bridge, a strange feeling began to spread. The air was cold, and the wind howling through the iron beams created eerie sounds, making the atmosphere even more ominous. Brian was the first to step onto the bridge, but a peculiar sensation made him stop. He felt a presence around him, as though someone was watching. As the group continued forward, they suddenly heard a strange noise from beneath the bridge. It was the sound of steady footsteps, not from someone walking on the bridge, but from something massive moving below. Jessica panicked and said to Brian, "Did you hear that? There's something down there." Brian and Sam laughed, thinking their friend was imagining things. But when they looked down, they saw a tall figure with glowing red eyes standing on the tracks. It had the form of a man, but with a goat's head, shaggy fur, and legs resembling those of a beast. The figure remained motionless, but its red eyes stayed fixed on the group. In that moment, all three felt hypnotized, unable to move or cry out. Then, the figure suddenly vanished into the darkness. The group tried to flee the bridge, but as they turned to run, an eerie voice called out, as if a man were calling their names. The voice echoed in their heads, leaving them disoriented. Brian, leading the group, glanced back and saw a faint silhouette of a man at the edge of the bridge, arms outstretched as if beckoning them closer. Jessica screamed, "We have to get out of here now!" The group ran as though escaping a nightmare, but the voice continued to echo in their minds, like a hypnotic invitation. After that night, the teens never returned to the Pope Lick Bridge. However, in July 1961, another group of teenagers visited the area and encountered something strange. One of them, named Tommy, went missing while exploring near the bridge. After days of searching, police found only Tommy's jacket, abandoned near the spot where the earlier group had seen the eerie figure. Tommy's disappearance was never explained, and from then on, the Pope Lick Bridge became infamous not just for the legend, but also for unexplained disappearances. The Pope Lick Bridge, located in a remote area near Louisville, has become a must-visit spot for thrill seekers. Yet, beyond the ghostly tales, a real incident occurred in 1987. A man named Robert was driving across the bridge at midnight when he suddenly lost control of his vehicle. When police arrived, they discovered that Robert had mysteriously vanished without a trace around the bridge. This incident was rumored to involve an unknown force associated with the bridge. As local residents whispered, on a night in 1989, another group of friends decided to test the legend at the Pope Lick Bridge. This time, the group came prepared with a video camera. As they approached the bridge, a strong wind shook it, strange noises echoed, and shadowy figures began to appear. When the group stopped to film, a massive dark shape shot up from beneath the bridge, nearly colliding with them. One member of the group shouted, "Run, now!" They fled in terror, and in the chaos, the camera was dropped. The only footage left was a single frame showing the eerie figure of the Pope Lick monster, a goat-headed, human-like creature disappearing into the shadows. After that night, none of them dared to return to the Pope Lick Bridge. From then on, the Pope Lick Bridge became a site not only of legend, but also a warning for those who sought to challenge the unknown. Many visitors came looking for the Pope Lick monster, but what they encountered was something beyond imagination, leaving them unable to explain their experiences. Some even claimed that the Pope Lick monster could leap onto car rooftops from the bridge's supports and attack people with a bloodied axe. The story of the Pope Lick monster continues to haunt this area, with many believing the creature still lurks in the shadows, ready to drag the curious into the depths below. The Mokele-Mbembe monster, a legendary creature of Congo. Mokele-Mbembe is one of the most famous legendary monsters of the Congo's tropical rainforest, especially in the remote areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Congo. Described as a giant creature resembling a dinosaur after the species went extinct, Mokele-Mbembe has sparked curiosity and fear for many centuries, although science has never found concrete proof of its existence. The stories from locals and explorers have made this monster an essential part of Africa's mysterious folklore. The story begins in 1982, when a French explorer named Pierre Duval decided to embark on a journey into the deep Congo jungle after hearing about a strange creature from the indigenous people of the area. Duval had heard many stories about Mokele-Mbembe from the locals, who believed it was a creature that had survived since the time of the dinosaurs. These people described Mokele-Mbembe as an animal with a long neck and a shape similar to an extinct dinosaur, with a massive body and a long tail. Although everyone around Duval advised him not to venture into this dense and dangerous jungle, he decided to proceed with the expedition, with a group of local tribespeople as guides. Duval set off to explore the jungle in the summer of 1982. From the very first days of the journey, Duval felt something unusual. Throughout the expedition, his team continually encountered strange traces that they had never seen from any known animals in the area. Large footprints, resembling those of a gigantic animal, were discovered near the riverbank. Duval noted that these footprints had a very peculiar shape, with distinct toes, but they did not resemble any animal he knew. Although he could not definitively identify them, he believed they were the tracks of Mokele-Mbembe. One evening, while Duval's team was resting near a river, they heard a loud cry echoing through the forest. The cry sounded like the roar of a giant animal, but with a deep pitch, almost like the roar of an ancient creature. Everyone in the group was terrified, but Duval tried to reassure them. He suggested that the sound might come from an undiscovered animal. However, he also sensed that something was amiss in this jungle. On the 5th day of the journey, Duval and his team reached a flooded area. As they moved through the swampy terrain, suddenly, a massive wave broke out from beneath the water, causing the team to stop and struggle to keep their balance. Everyone was frightened as a giant creature, resembling a dinosaur, emerged from the water. It was an animal with a long neck, a massive body, and a firm tail, clearly visible through the murky water. The creature gazed at the expedition team with a cold stare before swimming back into the water and disappearing. Duval recorded every detail and believed this to be Mokele-Mbembe, the legendary creature the locals had spoken of. From that moment, he not only believed in the existence of the creature, but also affirmed that it could have survived to this day in the untouched forests of Congo. Over the years, many other scientists and explorers have also heard of Mokele-Mbembe, and some have undertaken expeditions to search for proof of its existence. One notable real-life event was an expedition in 1985 led by American explorer William Gibbons. Gibbons had researched Mokele-Mbembe for many years and organized an expedition in Congo. Although he did not find solid evidence of the creature's existence, Gibbons noted several strange traces, including trees unnaturally bent and large footprints unlike any known animals. On the final day of the expedition, Duval's group decided to return to their starting point. While crossing a small stream, something strange occurred. Suddenly, a huge shadow crossed the water, creating a large wave that forced the group to stop. When they looked up, they saw Mokele-Mbembe, the creature with a long neck and large body. Standing on the riverbank, Duval, along with the others in his team, could only stare at the strange creature before them, unsure of what to do. Before the group could retreat, Mokele-Mbembe turned around and dove back into the river, leaving a large wave behind. In that moment, Duval knew he had encountered one of the legendary creatures that had once only been heard of in stories. After the expedition, Duval wrote a book detailing the journey and what he had witnessed. The book quickly became an important document for those interested in Mokele-Mbembe and other mythical creatures. Although there is still no scientific proof of Mokele-Mbembe's existence, Duval's story and other expeditions continue to raise questions about ancient creatures that may still exist in remote areas of the world. The story of Mokele-Mbembe is not just a legend, but also a reminder of the mystery and unexplored nature of the wild. Thus, we have journeyed together through a terrifying and mysterious adventure, where legendary creatures continue to exist in stories that defy explanation. The strange encounters, the mysterious traces, and the undeniable evidence all make us wonder whether these creatures truly exist. While science has yet to provide a clear explanation, these stories remain an integral part of our culture and history. Are we living in a world where these mythical creatures still lurk? Or are they just products of our imagination? We may never know the answer, but one thing is certain. The stories of legendary creatures will continue to haunt and stir the hearts of those who dare to explore. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn more about other mysterious creatures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video so you don't miss any strange expeditions. And remember, in this world, you might encounter the inexplicable